Hey, Spencer Smith here. Today we're going to talk about Necron tactics. It's going to be a three-part video. I'm going to split up Necrons into three different ways of looking at them. First, the army formulations that you can use, because when you're on YouTube and you're looking around at Necron tactics and tutorials, you see one army type, which is a bulk of Necrons, maybe a monolith, and a headquarter choice. There's different ways of using a Necron army, so I'm going to give you three different ways that I use a Necron army. I do know how to use the main bulk of Necrons I was talking about, but you can find that anywhere else, so I'm not going to be covering that. And also, in the later videos, I'm going to cover the actual units and the actual troop choices you have, and what they can do and where and how to use them, which is very important. So I have my army set up on the board over there, and I'm going to show you my three ways of using a Necron army. Alright, this is the first of the three armies I'm going to be showing you guys today. Keep in mind these are for army balances. I'm trying to show you guys how you can balance a Necron army instead of having just, the 50 troops in the 1500 point army. Right now, I'm showing you 2,000 point armies, and right now this is probably one of the more extreme balances I have. For a 2,000 point army, I am only running 26 troops, and it works. I was in tournaments a couple years ago, stopped playing, and then 3 years later I started playing again. I used this army and I did pretty darn well. Alright, when I use this army and against tournaments, this is when I don't know exactly what I'm going to be up against, but I can tell you that this army does work very well against Tau and Space Marines. And even though those armies are totally different armies, when I'm fighting those two armies, I'm just switching around unit roles. When up against Tau, this is how it goes. Flayed ones are actually quite valuable when up against Tau because their close combat skills are just enough to be devastating to the regular Tau troop. With the infiltrating rule, you can get close into the Tau troop, and with their very valuable weapon of Strength 5, Range 30, you're taking a lot of firepower off the board. And same thing with your Wraiths. With their jet bike move, you can get into their face and take out another troop. 90% chance you're going to get a sweeping advance on the first turn, especially if you're going to charge. Because you are taking out that much firepower, you're saving your phalanx. Again, keep in mind, all AP4s don't allow armor saves. All of your Immortals, Destroyers, and Pariah AP4 weapons don't allow and take off even more of their troops on the board. And that brings me to the Nightbringer. Strength 5 is the minimum strength that you need to wound the Catan, and the less you have of that on the board, the safer he is. Which brings me to a very valuable point, and this doesn't just go for Tau, it goes for Space Marines and whatever other army you're fighting. The less or the more valuable units you're taking out that can wound the Nightbringer, the more they're going to want to wound it, because it's only a matter of time until that thing gets into close combat. And the more firepower they're focusing on that, is less they're focusing on your troops, which save your troops yet again. And against Tau, I use my Heavy Destroyers and Nightbringer up against tanks. That's basically how I use Tau, other than I try to get my headquarters squad moving up the field, aiming for an elite unit or their headquarters squad. And also, Recruit are devastating to Pariah because they outnumber. And there's no reason in having a War Scythe when your opponent doesn't get saves in the first place. So I have a Lightning Field on my Lord. Okay, and then up against Space Marines, basically a little tweak, but very important tweak. Your flayed ones are no longer the powerhouse that they were with the Tau army. You have to be very careful on where you place them on the battlefield, because you don't want to be up against a headquarters squad or an elite squad with power weapons. With your infiltrate rule, you want to get up into a devastator squad or a scout squad or a small troop even. Okay? And because Space Marines are likely to assault, Tomb Spiders, I always put Tomb Spiders with my troops because they are the close combat safety net for your Necron troops. Also, your headquarters. That is where your headquarters is going, to their power weapons and to their headquarters squads. Also, I take out low save profile targets and tanks with my heavy destroyers and try to save my Catan moving up the bat into their phalanx or in their main bulk of troop. And for both armies, I basically use destroyers and immortals the same. Alright, next army formula. Alright, this is the second army choice that I have right here. The way this runs is, again, I have a small amount of troops. A Necron Lord right here with Wraiths on a jet bike, and a Necron Lord again with 7 Pariah. Now, you have to ask your opponent if this is okay, because you're supposed to only have 1 Necron, but more likely than not, they're going to let you do this. One, because it still takes up the amount of points, and in most armies, you can have 2 headquarter choices. Alright, I have this on the board the way I would basically in a game when it comes to balance, but of course it would be more spread out end to end. The way I would do this is basically have my fast attack in the right hand side of my army, so I am taking this side of the board and I am holding this side of the board. I have most of my shots here with my immortals and my Pariah and heavy destroyers, and I have my regular destroyers over here, just to give my Scarab Swarms and my Necron Lords some cover while they move up the field. And when they are in close combat, which is most likely going to be your turn 2 or 3, they are going to move over to the other side of the board. Now you see I have 2 Tomb Spiders on the left side of the board. Now I do that because if someone wants to assault or get into close combat, or take out some more of my valuable targets, being my immortals or Pariah, they're going to have to go through the 2 Tomb Spiders, because they are almost directly in front of the 2 troops. Alright, so basically, I took out a lot of troops. I don't have that many troops, but I put all the troop points into the destroyers, the heavy destroyers, and everything like that. I only have the Tomb Spiders and Pariah and Scarabs that do not have the will be back rule. Alright, so basically you're going to see a huge shift in the board because you have these 2 units right here. They're going to be taking the board, while these units right here are going to be staying in a position and firing. So basically you're going to see your army do that and tip your opponent off balance basically with his phalanx. Alright, second troop army formula type. Alright, this is my third army formula that I use in tournaments. This is probably the most you'll see me bend to the regular Necron army. As you can see, I'm troop heavy. I have 2 squads of 12 and 1 squad of 14 and a monolith. I seldom use a monolith. Alright, this army I use for objective games because I have troops, and also like Eldar, if I'm going up against Eldar. A couple reasons for that is the Seer Council squad and anything with fortune I can take care of with my War Scythes and my Pariah. Especially if they're on jet bikes, because I have the initiative, I have the attacks, and best of all, the invulnerable save of 3. And with my invulnerable save of 3, if they have power weapons and they don't get to save at all, I finally get the upper hand against them. I usually take these guys with the monolith, I teleport them out, and I don't want the monolith in the whole game, because with a 2,000 point army, it's the key part. If you take the monolith out of the army, I know the size is massive, but I mean, it's a big chunk of points too. That's going to be where all the fire is going to be aimed at. This balance is, its basic purpose is to soften the blow of the enemy by having a larger troop, but at the same time being able to deliver that back. Basically, you have right here the offensive and the defensive part of my army. They're very separated. There is a line in between those 2 functions of the army. Alright, That is the last one. I didn't go into too much detail with the actual troop choices because that is what the second video is about. When you watch the second video, it'll probably make a lot of things clear what I was talking about this one. Alright, if you liked it, subscribe. Wait for the next video to come up. It'll be up shortly. Alright, peace.